Overall salary increments are likely to remain conservative this year, but professionals in growth areas with in-demand skill sets like technology could prove the exception and buck the trend. The latest Robert Walters Global Salary Survey also highlights where continued demand will come from. These include the supply chain, pharmaceuticals, and renewable energy sectors. For a closer look, we're joined by Monty Sujanani. He is country manager for Singapore at Robert Walters. Well, Monty, what sort of tech niche skills will be in demand and why?
Hi, Liz. So this is a really interesting time for technology. And when you talk about skill sets, there are a series of skill sets that are so in demand. So we talk about data analytics and we talk about AI and machine learning. And, the last 12 and cybersecurity, which is a really hot area. And, we look at the last 12 months where digital transformation has been significantly accelerated. And even if we look behind the last 12 months, it's always been a big agenda for lots of businesses. And what we're seeing right now is everybody wants the same talent. So there's a war on talent. There's low supply and high demand for a range of these technical skill sets.
Yeah, and will these only be in growth sectors? What about the other sectors?
Sure. So, you can look at the traditional sectors. Actually, it's really across all industries, right? You look at traditional sectors like retail, where everything's moving from brick and mortar to online and e-commerce. And that, as a result, has seen a growth in the logistics sector. So it's all really connected. Now more than ever, where people are working from home, there's really a big shift and a mindset shift to be able to use technology to communicate, to collaborate, and to effectively run a business. So when you talk about industries, it's really across all industries, but the skill sets still remain relatively technical, but also, a mix and hybrid of technical skill sets, but also a range of soft skills like resilience or flexibility and adaptability. So it really comes across, as you mentioned, actually, it's not just your high-tech industries, but across all industries, really.
Yeah, and for those looking for jobs, how can they sort of raise their chances of landing jobs where the demand is greater? And what are some of the soft skills you think employers are looking for?
Sure, no, that's a good question, Liz. So we get this question quite a lot, where employees or candidates out in the market who's looking through a transition, whether it's mid-career or even fresh going to the market, there are lots of opportunities to upskill. I mean, there are tons of programs out there through the Skills Future and or even through private education institutes, and we strongly encourage candidates to just take the risk and upskill yourself. That's what companies want to see. They want to see someone who wants to learn. It's very hard to find 100% fit. And where we come in and we talk to companies and say, hey, you're not going to find 100% fit. Look at somebody who's around 60 to 70% fit. Give them the opportunity to upskill themselves, right? So upskilling is very, very important to be able to, embrace the technology, keep up to date, learn new things. And that's all part of, the fun of learning and development, right? So we strongly encourage employees or job seekers to invest in your own learning and development, and for companies to invest in their employees' learning and development as well.
All right, and very quickly before we go, is it too optimistic to expect a pay rise at all in a pandemic year?
That's a good question as well. So, listen, it's conservative. I think for the first half of this year, especially, companies are still being relatively conservative with pay increments and pay rises. Second half of the year, we're going to be a bit optimistic and hopeful. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty. But as of now, it's still being very cautious. However, we are seeing when candidates move from one job to another, if they're in a really niche skill set, they can get a premium of up to 10 to 20%. We're also seeing a big demand for tech skill sets coming from overseas Singaporeans who come into Singapore, and they can even get a premium of up to 25%. So again, it really depends on the skill sets that they bring. But again, just from macro level, it's going to be relatively conservative, but always important to feel a bit hopeful.
All right, thank you so much. That was Monty Sujanani from recruitment consultancy, Robert Walters.